Now, I'm not a D20 guy, I'm certainly not a D&D guy, but I am a basic role-playing guy, and I am a RuneQuest guy. And so today, I'm gonna teach myself how to play a game that kind of takes its DNA from all of those games. Yes, today, I am going to learn how to play Dragonbane by Free League Publishing here on the Featureless Grey Plain. Dragonbane is Free League's latest game, and it does take its DNA from D&D. You can see a lot of D&D isms in there, but it also takes its DNA from basic role-playing, or RuneQuest. Right here, this is a copy of the very first edition of RuneQuest, and boy, this game, I gotta be real careful with these pages because they are delicate. This particular printing is back from 80. Yes, so I think this is the third printing of the first edition of RuneQuest. It is very, very clear that Dragonbane derives a lot of its philosophy, a lot of its DNA from RuneQuest, except that it uses a D20 instead of percentiles. But why do I say that? Well, it's a game that uses skills instead of levels and classes. You do have professions in Dragonbane, but they're basically like starting packages for characters to be made more easily. Any character can become anything in this game. It is skill-based, and I really love that. You are rolling a D20, you are rolling under your skill, or your skill or under rather, in order to succeed. If you roll a 1, that is called a dragon, and that's a very good thing. A lot of critical hit effects. And if you roll a 20, that is a demon, and that is a very bad thing. So it's the opposite from D&D. You want to roll low instead of high. This is kind of similar to Symbaroum, which is another game by Free League, which I am going to talk about it in the future because I really, really love Symbaroum as well. But when I first saw Dragonbane, when the quick start came out, I dismissed it because I was like, D20, it looks just like D&D. But it's not. It shares way more in common with RuneQuest than it does with D&D. Although Dragonbane has taken a lot of ideas from 5th edition, including the idea of advantages and disadvantages, except it's called Boons and Banes. By the way, this product, as a product, is fantastic. The box set is absolutely beautiful. It comes with all kinds of things. It comes with your stand-up minis. It comes with a little battle mat. It comes with your rules. It also comes with a campaign book. They sent me the DM screen as well, which is really fantastic, and a whole bunch of dice. So, and character sheets and pre-made characters and. It's fantastic. The art is amazing. The layout is really good. It's just another quality product, another hit for Free League. So I'm gonna quickly roll up Black J. I'm not gonna do it right now on camera because that's kind of boring to see, but through the magic of editing, this is Black J's character sheet. These are his stats. This is what's gonna be relevant for the fight to come. He has got pretty good skill. He's got basically 14 skill on swords and essentially 14 skill to parry as well. He's got the ability of shield block, which means that he parries with a shield with a boon. A boon, of course, is you roll 2d20 and you take the best roll. In this case, it's the lower roll. He's a knight. He's wearing plate armor with a great helmet, which means it's really hard to damage. He's got essentially 8 points of damage that come off any attack at him, but he has a bane on sneaking, evading, acrobatics, awareness, and a ranged attack. So luckily, he's not going to be worrying too much about that here in the Featureless Grey Plain. That is Black J. Broadsword, shield, plate armor. He is kitted out and he is ready to go. Now let's have a look at his enemy. An orc. Orc is an orc is an orc. We all know what an orc is. This is going to be an orc warrior. His move is 10. He's going to get a d4 damage bonus. His armor is studded leather, which means it's 2. He's got 12 hit points. He's got a scimitar at 12, and it does 2d6 plus d4. He's very, very comparable to Black J. Of course, he doesn't have the same armor. So Black J definitely has the advantage here. All right, so here's the deal. Featureless Grey Plain. There's Black J at one end. There's the orc at the other. Yes, these standees aren't quite as interesting as miniatures, but you know, whatever. It's all fine and good. When you do a combat in this game, and remember, I've never played this before, so I might be doing things wrong, who knows. Combat, rounds of initiative. We have these fancy dancy initiative cards. So we shuffle these up, and we see who draws the initiative. Black J is gonna be on 5, and the orc. Grumash, I believe the name of the orc was last time when I did the fantasy trip. So this too will be Grumash. It's going to be on 4. Okay, well in this game, we count up. So that means the orc is going to go first. So there's no surprise here. It's the Featureless Grey Plain. Everybody knows where everybody is. actions and movement. In this game, basically, you can move and do a thing, just like a lot of games. Now, the other thing, too, is that you also have reactions, which is parrying, dodging. But if you use a reaction, that takes up your action. So in other words, if I attack first, so if the orc attacks first, then he basically can't parry or dodge against any incoming attack. So one of the tactics in this game is to, if it's a one-on-one situation like this, is sometimes you might want to wait to see if the opponent's going to attack first, because if he swings and misses, then you don't have to expend your reaction to defend. You can just hit him. But if you go first, like if the orc here on initiative 4 wanted to wait, what he would do is he would swap the card with the enemy. That's how that works. But he's not going to do that. He's an orc. He's going to move 10 meters, because of course this is made in Europe, but here in America we use feet and yards, so basically a meter is the same thing more or less as a yard, which is 3 feet. Close enough for our purposes. So what that means is 10 meters is going to be 10 yards, or in this case 10. Oh, wait a minute. Each of these squares is 2 meters. So he could go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. If he wanted to dash as his action, he could. He could double his movement, but he's not going to do that because there's absolutely no reason. He is moved and he is done. So he's basically saving his... Does he have a shield? He doesn't have a shield. Oh, he could be in big trouble. He can still parry with the sword, but if you parry with the sword, each weapon has a durability rating, and sometimes the attacking weapon, if it does more damage than the durability weapon, it damages the weapon, but we'll see if that happens. So that was him. He has not performed his action, so I do not flip this card yet, because he has not yet performed his action. It's still freely available. Now we go to round 5, where Black Jay also has a move of 10, and he goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, but look at this. He cannot attack the orc because he is 10 feet away, essentially, or 6 feet away, whatever. He's two squares away, 4 meters away. I really shouldn't be so weird about meters. I grew up in Canada, but I'm Gen X, and Gen X is the last generation that could tell you how many kilometers away something is, but not how many kilograms something is. Okay, so he's gonna take his action, boom, to do that. Now he's engaged with the orc. Now the orc cannot use his action now to attack Black Jay, because he would have had to do that on his initiative. He was only saving this for a potential defense, but he didn't use it, so that's the end of that. So basically now that was the end of round 1. We go back now to initiative, so we reshuffled. There's a different initiative every round, unless you have a special heroic ability called Veteran. I think it's Veteran, which allows you to keep your initiative card. We do new initiative every round, which is important. Black Jay is going to be on 9, and the orc is going to be on 8, so the orc goes first. So the orc is not smart enough to think tactically, so he is just going to, he's not going to move, he's going to attack. Now, incidentally, if he did, for whatever reason, want to move out of the zone of control, essentially, of Black Jay here, he would move and he would have to do an evade roll. It doesn't count as an action. But if he failed that roll, Black Jay would get a free attack. Just again, like a lot of games. But he's not going to do that. He's not going to move. He's just going to attack. So the orc attacks on 12, which means he takes his handy dandy d20, is looking for 12 or under. And does he hit? He does. He strikes with a scimitar. Now, Black Jay can either take the damage and allow his 8 points of armor to soak it up and probably be okay, or he can use his action to parry. For the purposes of demonstration, he's going to use his action to parry. So the orc hit on 11. Black Jay is going to flip his card because now he's used his action. So too has the orc. And Black Jay is going to parry. He's parrying with the shield, but he rolls, by the way, with a boon because he has the special ability of shield block, but in order for him to roll with a boon, he'd have to spend willpower, and he didn't call that. That's a fine. He succeeded anyway. He succeeded the parry against the hit, which means he did parry the hit. However, a couple things about parrying. If your parry succeeds, the enemy's attack hits your weapon or shield, and you suffer no damage. However, if the weapon exceeds your weapon's durability, the weapon is damaged. This is probably not going to happen, but it might. So the orc is rolling 2d6 plus 2d4 damage against the durability of Black Jay's shield, which is 15. So the damage comes in. Oh my God. Close. 11, 12, 13. So the shield is not damaged, but if the orc actually rolled max damage, basically, if he exceeded the durability, then the weapon would be damaged and can't be used until it's repaired. So I quite like that. It's a simple little way to deal with weapons being damaged without getting too much in the weeds. Pretty cool. The shield is fine. Kapunk! That was the orc, and that was Black Jay. He goes next, but he used his action, so he is done. We go into the new round. So you can see how going first, it could be a real advantage, because that would have been different. If the orc had missed, Black Jay would have been able to strike back, and the orc would not have been able to defend. All right, Black Jay is going on 6. The orc is going on 8. Black Jay goes first. This time, Black Jay is, in fact, going to swap initiative cards with the orc, because he wants the orc to attack first. The orc does attack first, and he's rolling on 12. The orc will miss this time, which means Black Jay is going to attack the orc, knowing the orc cannot defend. This is very good for Black Jay. He is rolling with a skill of 14 on swords. He rolls a 9. That is a successful hit. The orc cannot defend, which means Black Jay is going to roll his damage with his broadsword. Oh, and he would have to pick the type of damage as well. There's optional rules for like the sword is slashing or piercing. You have to determine which you're going to do first, because certain types of damage do different things against different armor. So for example, if the orc was wearing chainmail gets a bonus against slashing weapons. So you want to pierce. The other thing is if you roll a critical, if you roll a dragon, which is a 1 in this game, if you declared that you were piercing or were using a piercing weapon, then you could actually use that critical success to bypass the armor, but only if it's piercing. It's kind of cool. Anyway, so Black Jay strikes the orc, and he's going to do 8, 9, 10, 11 minus the orc's armor of 2, which is 9 damage. So the orc, boom. Oh, there was something else that I missed. Anyway, the orc's going to be down to 3 hit points. I want to come back to that. When you successfully parry, so going back to that previous round when he parried with the shield, you can move both yourself and the enemy 2 meters or 1 square in any direction. It keeps the battle moving, right? So let's say he did that. Again, it's a featureless Grey Plain. It's not really going to matter, but on a successful parry, you can choose to do that if you want. So clang, and sort of like force the enemy back. Okay, is there anything about damage when you take more than half or anything like that? I can't remember. I know there is in other games. I don't think there is. You take severe injuries in this game if you're reduced to 0 hit points, which are like lingering injuries. Oh, and there's pushing in this game as well. So far, everyone has succeeded, or Black Jay succeeded, but you can choose to push your roll. This obviously shares its DNA with a lot of other Free League games too. If Black Jay had missed, let's say he had rolled a 17, okay, on that attack, you can choose to push. What that means is you can pick up the dice and roll again to get another shot, but you must take a condition. A condition you mark on one of your stats, so you can, strength has exhausted, con has sickly, agility has dazed, etc. You choose the condition and you sort of role play that, right? You've chosen to push and now you suffer this condition, which means anytime you use any skill that's based on that stat, you roll with a Bane. Okay, so there's a little price to pay there, but that never happened because he succeeded in his roll. There's no thing for taking like half your hits in one blow or anything like that. So the orc's down to 3. Now in this game, everyone has very, very few hit points as well. So as you can see, the orc has 12 hit points and Black Jay's striking with 2d6 plus a d4. That's big damage. It is very possible to knock somebody down in 1 or 2 blows. In fact, it's probably the norm. So combat is going to be pretty grim, pretty lethal. Well, I shouldn't say lethal, because if a PC gets knocked down, he's not necessarily dead. There's these severe injuries and stuff, and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, so that was round 2. We go to round 3 now. The orc has been hit pretty bad, as we expected, because he doesn't have much in the way of armor. A lot of people don't like cards. A lot of people don't like cards in their RPGs. When I ran Savage Worlds in season 1 of the main show on this channel, Savage Worlds uses initiative cards. A lot of people say, I don't like cards. I didn't think I would either, but I kind of do. I think they're quick and easy to understand where everybody is in the round, especially if you're using initiative cards. Pretty cool there. Anyway, all right, boom. So Black Jay's on 7, the orc is on 10. Now Black Jay can choose to go first. I think he will this time. He's going to press his opportunity. He's rolling with a skill of 14 or less, which is a 5. That is a hit. So he strikes the orc. The orc is going to try and parry with his scimitar of a skill of 12. He does not, but let's say, just for just for demonstration's sake. Let's say he did. Let's say he rolled that successful parry with the scimitar. The scimitar has a durability score of 12. So the orc, let's say he successfully parried. Black Jay is rolling his damage. 2d6 plus d4 against 12. 4, 6, so 10. So the scimitar would have been okay, but if he had rolled better, he might have actually damaged that scimitar in the parry, and then it would be useless until it gets repaired. Anyway, in any event, the orc missed his parry. So Black Jay is going to do his damage again, and probably going to kill him this time. 5, 6, 9, minus 2 is 7, he only had 3 left, so down goes the orc. Okay, so that's pretty quick, right? I mean, it resolves very quickly, but let's add a couple of interesting things into the mix now. Let's reset back here. Reset the initiative cards as well. This is kind of neat. I love this aspect that they include this in this game. Improvised weapons, forest, right? So you got forest, cave, tavern, all this kind of stuff. These are just random things that could be interacted with if you have the opportunity to grab it. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna assume that at some point, each of these characters can move to an area and use an improvised weapon here in the forest. But we're also gonna do something different. I'm gonna assume that this orc now also has a crossbow, okay? And I'm gonna assume that he also has a skill of 12 in it. Damage 2d8. As well as a scimitar, still no shield. Perfectly fine. Black Jay's gonna start all the way back here. Again, Featureless Grey Plain, except we're gonna now introduce some interesting improvised weapons into the situation. All right, so Black Jay's initiative is gonna be on 3 and the orc's on 5. This is good. Black Jay wants to get there soon. The range of the crossbow is 60, so the orc could hit him from anywhere, from 30 squares away, basically. Black Jay's gonna move 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then he's gonna move again, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Actually, no, he's not gonna do that. He's gonna 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then he's gonna wait because he's got his shield, which means he can try and parry a arrow or a bolt in this case. So the orc is going second. So the orc has his crossbow in his hand. He's not gonna move, but he's going to shoot. Now, let's add into this mix just because we can. It is a forest, right? So now we're going to assume that there's trees everywhere on this Featureless Grey Plain. The Featureless Grey Plain now has features. There's just trees and stuff. We're going to assume that everywhere in this, you can sort of take cover, which means that to shoot a ranged opponent, that opponent is obscured, which means that the orc rolls with a bane. So the orc's rolling a crossbow skill of 12, but he has to take the higher one because high is bad, and he shoots. And look at that. Well, that would have been a critical hit, but he's got to take the worst one, which is that. So he still will hit. The critical hit would have been interesting. In fact, again, just for the purposes of demonstration, let's assume that there was no trees. Let's assume that it was, in fact, a Featureless Grey Plain, and he had just rolled that. Well, that is a critical hit. Now, in order for Black Jay to parry that, he would have to roll a critical as well. You cannot parry critical unless you also roll a critical, okay? Let's assume that that's what happens. Boom. He fires the crossbow, thunk, hits Black Jay with a critical hit. Now, he has an option here. Black Jay can try and parry with his shield, so he's definitely going to try and do it. He's basically got to roll a critical. No, he does not. So we'll assume the orc rolled a critical hit on Black Jay. Thunk. So he has an option. He can either bypass the armor, because the weapon does piercing damage, or he can double his rolled damage. Well, if the orc is smart, he's going to bypass the armor because Black Jay has 8 points of armor. That's what he's going to do. 2d8 damage comes in, bypassing the armor. And I know the orc didn't really roll that. He was rolling with a bane, but it doesn't matter. Boom. And he's going to roll 8 damage against Black Jay. He's down to 7 from that critical hit. Oh, bad news. And that was the orc's move. Now we go into a new round. So it's quick. It's very quick, as you would expect sort of a rules-lightish game like this to be. But it also has some interesting details in combat, which are kind of cool, and they're quite elegantly applied. All right, Black Jay's going to be on 2. The orc's going to be on 5. Well, Black Jay is wounded now because of a cheating GM. So he wants to get up there quick. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, which engages him. Now, if the orc, with his crossbow, wanted to shoot... He's got a crossbow. Oh, does a crossbow take time to load? That's a good question. I don't see anything about loading, so I guess he can shoot. But if he shoots, then he's going to fire with a bane. I don't think he's going to do that. I think what he's going to do, he's going to use his free action to draw up his crossbow and his regular action to draw his scimitar. Okay, so now we're sort of back into a situation where we were in the previous encounter. All right, so that is the end of that round. So now I'm just going to move them over here because it's a featureless gray plain and it doesn't really matter. Oh, the improvised weapons. Now that they're in hand-to-hand, let's see. Let's see. Not that it matters if they're hand-to-hand. You can use your improvised weapons anywhere. Black Jay this time is going to be on 4, and the orc is going to be on 1, which means the orc is going to go first. The orc is going to use his action to attack with his scimitar. Skill level 12. 4 is a hit. Black Jay is going to try and block that with his shield, and he's going to roll at 11, which is a success, but it's possible the scimitar still damages the shield, although unlikely. No problem. So the shield takes the hit. Black Jay successfully parried, which means he can move the orc 1 square in any direction. Again, Featureless Grey Plain doesn't matter there, but that was his action and his action, so no improvised weapons come into play because that was the end of the round. We go to the next round now. Obviously, you can see this would be a lot more tactically sort of interesting if there was more people at play rather than just two guys slugging it out in the woods. But nonetheless, I like to start the Featureless Grey Plain very simply to learn the absolute basics of the game system first before I go adding other opponents. All right, the orc again goes first. The orc is going to strike with the scimitar, skill level 12. 3 will hit Black Jay again. I sure hope I'm remembering to read that as roll under. Anyway, he does hit Black Jay. Black Jay is wounded from the cheating GM's critical hit. So he is pretty much has to try and parry this. And does he do it? He does, and he moves the orc back. Haha! Let's say he moves him this way. Haha! Like that, but it costs his action to do so. Again, the improvised weapon is not going to come into play. Oh, he blocked, so it's possible. It's possible the shield is hurt, but no, the shield's fine. All right, next round, Black Jay is going to be on 7. And the orc is going to be on 3. The orc goes first again and again. The orc will strike with a skill level of 12. Again, he'll hit. This is really bad. Black Jay's going to try and block. He will roll a demon. This is really bad. This is a fumble on the parry. Now, when you go to roll a demon in melee, actually, I think when you're parrying, I don't think it really matters. I mean, he just blows it. What would be far more interesting is if he rolled a critical on the parry. Yeah, so in this case, all it means rolling a demon when parrying, it just means he fails, so he'd be hit. But let's say, because I cheated in the orc's favor, now I'm going to cheat in Black Jay's favor again, just for the purposes of a demonstration. Let's say you roll a critical on his parry. What that means is, when you roll a dragon, which is what that is, when parrying, you immediately perform a counterattack on your opponent, an automatic hit with your weapon that cannot be dodged or parried. Does that mean that he automatically hits him, or he gets a chance to hit him with the roll? That suddenly is unclear. I don't think I have to roll for that. Free League, if you're watching, tell me if I'm wrong about that, because I'm not exactly sure. I think it means that it automatically hits. Let's assume that's what it means. So again, yes, I know he rolled the fumble, but I'm cheating in his favor just like I cheated in favor of the orc, just to demonstrate. So he rolled, in fact, a critical. So not only does he parry off the orc's attack, he immediately gets a free hit on the orc, and he does his damage with his broadsword. Haha! 6, 8 minus 2 is 6 damage to the orc, knocks him down to half. So you see, even when you use your reaction to parry, if you roll a critical, you can still wind up doing damage to the dude. All right, I really want to use these improvised weapons here, but I want Black Jay to get initiative so he can choose to do that, because the orc's not going to do it. The enemies typically don't do anything like that. This stuff is reserved for the players, you know, for the player characters to do cool stuff. Black Jay is on 9. Orc is on 1 again. Unbelievable. Let's just cheat again. Again, for the purposes of demonstration. The Black Jay's now going to go to 1. Let's see what the improvised weapon right near him is. There's a wasp nest. Roll bushcraft to pick up the wasp's nest and hurl it at an enemy within 10 meters. I think what I would do actually in a game, I would put little markers where random improvised weapons are. So if you move next to it, you can utilize this thing, because this is obviously a ranged attack. This is pretty cool. This is hucking a wasp nest at the enemy to do damage and giving them banes and all kinds of stuff. That's really cool. Black Jay's not going to make use of this, however, because his bushcraft sucks. It's 5, so he's better off just attacking, which he's going to do now because I've given him the first attack. He is going to attack at 12. He's going to hit. The orc is going to try and parry that with his scimitar. The orc will parry with the scimitar. However, does the scimitar get damaged from Black Jay's attack? A 10, no, it does not. But the orc successfully parried Black Jay, which means he pushes Black Jay back. You move with a successful parry. Anyway, you're getting the idea here, right? With sort of man-to-man combat here, it moves very fast. And it's really all about the timing. Let's just finish this. Boom, 9 and 7. Black Jay is going to go last. So the orc is going to strike. I want to get to a push here. I want to see if Black Jay can use a push. Okay, well, the orc is going to strike. Black Jay is going to try and block with a shield. Okay, great. So he fails, but he can't fail. So he's going to push, which means he rolls this die again and decides to take, I don't know, let's call it the angry condition, which means that any skill he uses on his intelligence is going to be rolled with a bane because he's angered that he's being driven back by this orc, but he gets to roll again, 14 or less. He fails again, so the orc is going to hit him with his damage. Scimitar, he's going to do 5, 4, 7 minus 8 points of armor. No damage done there. Nobody moves because no successful parries were done next round. So these two opponents are quite damaged. 5 and 1. Again, the orc goes first. Out of curiosity, let's see what the next... This is kind of interesting, okay? So the orc is going to attack. And he's going to miss. Great. Which means that Black Jay now has an opportunity. We have a low branch as an improvised weapon. Swing yourself from the branch and perform a melee attack. You can make a normal move without triggering free attacks. This would be really great if there's more opponents. The melee attack must be unarmed, so he basically kicks him in the head, but cannot be dodged or parried. If the attack fails, you fall to the ground and take d6 bludgeoning damage. This is an option, right? If there was more enemies around and he wanted to swing on a low branch and crack his boot into an enemy's skull, that would be an option. I really like these. I'm not going to use it right now because it doesn't help him, but really, really cool. All right. The orc swung and missed, which means Black Jay gets an opportunity to attack. The orc cannot defend. Black Jay strikes. He succeeds. These dice are rolling very well for me. Very well. This is probably the end of the orc. He's only got 2 points of armor. 5, 6 minus 2 is 4. The orc is still standing. He's at 2. We go to the next round now. Wow, little orc. And this round, 10, Black Jay again. Wow, this orc is just Mr. Speedy. He's going to swing, and he's going to miss this time. Huzzah. Black Jay is going to now strike, and he's going to hit right on the button with the 12, and he's going to do his damage. This will probably take care of the orc, I'm going to guess. Yes, it does, because there is armor, and he takes 8, and the orc is dead. Great. So that's 2 combats, as we've seen. Now, I haven't really delved into the magic rules, but they're pretty cool. You spend willpower points and roll against your skill. I've never liked Vancian magic from D&D, where spells just work. That always bugs me. I've never liked the idea of saving throws. It bugs me. I would much rather have the skill be based on the caster and the caster's ability to cast that spell. So that's what this game does with that. All right, so that's basically the combat between one-on-one. As you can see, it would be a lot more interesting with multiple foes and multiple members of a party, but for solo play, which this game comes with a component, a solo play, a little campaign, which I'm gonna run myself through at least a bit of to sort of demonstrate how that works, because it comes with its own oracles, it comes with its own charts, and it's really cool. But for solo play, this is really easy to keep track of things because there isn't a bunch of crazy details, but there is enough details to keep the combat interesting, like the fact that a successful parry drives somebody back, like the fact that if you get a critical parry, you get a free counterattack, like the fact that there are all these cool little improvised weapons and things like that around the battlefield, like the fact that weapons can be damaged by parrying. I really like that, and it doesn't really get in the way of the flow of the game either. So I quite like it. I'm not a D20 guy. If I was going to run sort of a D20 kind of adventure, classic kind of D&D style game, it would probably be this game. In terms of advancement, your characters can get better at skills, and they can also buy themselves through experience heroic abilities, which are again like your feats, right? So you can improve your character however you want. If Black Jay wanted to learn magic, that technically is possible. There's also cool like treasure cards and all kinds of good stuff that comes in this box set. This is really, really impressive. I'm kind of looking forward to running this little solo campaign, such as it is. It's not really a campaign. It's more of like a dungeon, basically, but it's a dungeon that is different for everyone that plays it because, of course, it is solo and it is randomly determined as you go. It has a really cool setup as well. There's basically this oracle who sort of lives at the entrance of the dungeon, and he knows certain things about various rooms of the dungeon, but not all of them. So you get some tips as to what you might expect in your particular excursion, but you don't know everything. Really neat. I'll go into that at some point soon in the future. In the meantime, yeah, that's Dragonbane. So it's very simple, very playable, very quick, and yet detailed in interesting ways. I really dig it. Looking forward to doing more with this. Again, thank you, Free League, for sending me this. Great stuff once again. And thank you all for joining me here today. If you want to help support the channel, please do hit like and subscribe, or if you want to become a YouTube channel member or join us on Patreon to help support the channel and make sure that I can continue producing things like this and others. The information for all of that is in the video description below. Thanks for joining me here today, and we will see you on the next episode of Me, Myself, and Die.